Another wonderful day for us to rejoice and be glad. And in rejoicing, some of us will be like, what are we rejoicing exactly? You're rejoicing because you have breath. Okay, and just like the Bible says that let everything that has breath praise the Lord. It's possible that you're not praising him for the breakthroughs that you have yet to experience in your life. Maybe you have prayed and tarried and waited for God, and some of those things have not happened. Maybe you're going through a very rough patch of your life and you just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. But the mere fact that you have breath, that means that there is hope. Okay, there is hope that your life is going to be fine. So welcome the hope dealers, welcome the community, and please welcome other people to join us as well so that we can be able to share in the good news. And as I was reading today, I don't know, I find myself being drawn to hope and, just giving hope and also just stirring hope inside of me. And this scripture spoke to me, and I don't know how many times I've prayed in it, and that is Micah, that is 7:7. It says that, but as for me, I don't know if some of you read it as Micah or Micah, I know different people read it differently. But as for me, I watch in hope for the Lord. I wait for God, my Savior. My God will hear me. When you have to speak to yourself like David used to speak to himself and say, my soul, remember all the good things that God has done. He's surely not going to abandon you. So I wait for God, my Savior. That means he saved you from trouble. He saved you from situations, and my God will hear me. That means he has not yet heard me. Maybe some of those things have not happened, but I am very sure that his word is yes and amen. All right. So today we have a beautiful story. Another beautiful story from Sam. He's going to be taking us through. We are all hearing it for the first time, so let's hope on and be as encouraged. But before we even go into the story, I would love to welcome Sam to the Hope family. I like to call it the Hope family. And we would love to know who Sam is, where you come from, what you do. Yes.
I'm called Semudu Samuel. Those are the whole names, but I also like to call myself Happy Sami.
Okay.
The reason is, some time back I used to go through a lot of things, and I was drawn to appreciating God, because always God sees me through. Each and every time I could be going through some difficult situation, I could have the hope and still God could work out. So I would always want to be reminded myself of being happy.
Yeah.
And that's why I call myself Happy Sami. Samuel is a musician, a worship leader, and actually an activist musician.
Okay.
I've been working on projects concerning gender-based violence.
Okay.
I have some music on them. I've worked with quite a number of organizations and people. And I'm also an administrator, campaign administrator, and I work with Kanak Uganda, work with children. Yes, and I'm a Christian, I'm a born again, and I'm a worshiper.
All right.
Worship leader.
Yeah, at least we know a little bit about Sam, an administrator, an activist, and, working with children. Where does Sam come from? Where is Sam? Where was he born? Siblings, parents?
I was actually born around Kampala in
You're a
Chirika.
Kampalanian.
I usually say that we are the ones born at the square.
Okay.
With the Marabu stocks. But anyway, I was born in Chirika, around Kabaka Road. And that's where we used to be, born of Molly, Sally, and to Mr. Sally Donna. Yeah.
Okay.
With I'm born with 3 children.
siblings,
other 2
siblings.
Other
2. So you're just 3.
Yeah, we are just 3.
Okay.
I'm the firstborn of all.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you come from Kampala. So there's nowhere we are talking about. Just Kampala. Seems so plain. Yeah. This is Chanamukaka, Weya, but Kampala. Okay.
I visited my village a few times. So
which is?
Mitiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, where does your journey start?
My journey starts actually from Chirika, in a very humble beginning. And one of the things that I want to emphasize actually when I talk about my story is my parents, because above all things, one, they have taught us to trust God. And if they did not do that, I don't think I would be here.
Okay.
And number 2, always reflect about the faithfulness of our Father, who always, through thick and thin, has always been faithful to his family, providing. And the biggest salary that my father used to earn when he was, in his youthful age when I was born, was 60,000 then. And he used to work in Zambia, and he could walk to and fro, coming back to take care of us. And our mother used to take us into the stone quarries to also make sure she makes ends meet.
Some money,
make some money, and that's where life started. Whenever we were not at school, we could go into the quarries and hit those stones, crush stones, and to make a living. So that is the life we grew up in, going up the Kabaka Hill and coming back down.
To go and make the heaps.
You could crush the stones, make a heap, and then sell it off and make some money. So that's where our mother used to get some money, join with our father's income, and make sure the family goes on. And because our father wanted us to have a better life, have better education. So when I grew up to P2 actually, he took me into boarding school. Okay. It was high for him, but he said, I want my children to
get the best,
have better education, to get the best I can afford. And I went to the now St. Augustine schools, the primary school, Uganda Matters in Nachifuma. So that is what was affordable, but still better. Affordable for him, but better at the time. And I went into boarding school in P2.
That was too young.
Yeah, too young. Yeah, and God worked it out. I was there almost all through. Sometimes I could go back home because of school fees. As a young child, it was not all easy. And some of the things I've never even shared with anyone. I usually want to share with people the hope. But sometimes now, I thank actually you, Hilda, and the team for inviting me here, that I will be able to talk about some of the things maybe I've not shared. But some of the things that I'm going to share about is actually the tough situations through, as a young child. My body is not that tall and big. And back then, when I was in school, I used to be the
Tiny.
Smallest child. And one of the deputies used to take us. We were two little children. She usually took us as her own children, and actually the head teacher, and they could sometimes take care of us. But back in the dormitories, you would always get some spanks. You'd always be the slave around. You go get me this, go get me that, go get me this. If you don't do it, someone has to to punish you. But God took us through. Still secondary, it was the same issue. I had all the names. Actually, right now, there is no nickname that can even make me turn my head, because I used to be the the short man. That used to be my nickname. The half man. I used to be the small boy. All the small names, the bad names maybe. But me, I usually now take joy in them, because that's where I come from, and that's why I'm right here where I am. And quite a lot of things happening, a lot of mistreatments here and there. To take you a little bit back in primary, I remember one of the stories that really sometimes make me go back in sorrow. I remember we had this, always in school there are those big boys, and we had then 3 kind of dormitories. The one for the big boys, and the one for between P4 and those in primary 7, but the middle-sized ones. And then there used to be one for the little ones. So I was in the middle-sized dormitory. And the big boys went out. We had a lot of fruit trees, jackfruit trees. And they got jackfruit, brought it in their dormitory, that and it all. So the mistress comes around and was so furious. So he confiscates, actually, I don't know whether there are those things called lombeto, when you're in the dormitories and you cover your beds. So they cover up with lombetos and hide their radios therein. And then when she comes around, she unveils them and says, oh, you also have radios. You're here in school. You're not allowed. So she confiscates all of them and then closes their dormitory, joins them into our middle-sized dormitory. And then they had a wrangle with one of the housemates, who was also actually a student, a pupil. So later on, the boys have a conflict with the girl, and whatever they said. So the headmistress comes, you had a wrangle with my girl, and you abused him. You even told her that I took your headsets, that I can sell them and buy kaunga. So I'm going next morning, all of you who are defaulters are going back home. That's the word, the defaulters. So the next morning, she comes, reads all the names. I was one of them. So she takes us. Now, surprisingly, she takes those whom she had a grudge with into her office. And as to the small young boys, she takes us into the store to see really that there is no food. And there was a teacher, I no longer remember the name. She beat us like rats. Beat us into the flour. The other one could fall into the jerry cans. Beat us like real good. And every time I think about how vulnerable you can be as a young child, but also as a small person, I don't know which better word I can use. But every time being looked down at, I thank God that now I have gathered the strength and the courage. I know who I am. And yeah, sometimes it's not easy. But I thank God that right now I can stand, lead teams, train big people. Yeah.
But back then
it was tough.
It was a hassle.
It was a hassle. And I remember one of the days, of course, you're in this school, your father is really straining hard to make sure you stayed there. Sometimes he could come around. The company had given him those big bikes and he rides to the school. Sometimes he has just brought you 5K to keep you through maybe a month or two. And I remember my mother had gone to a window and bought me some good shoe. Not good really, but that's what she could afford. So she comes around and she gives me the shoe, go back to school. So I go back to school with this shoe. My shoe polish gets done. And I don't know if you've seen those shoes that, they used to dye them and along the way it gets back to its real color. It gets back to brown. So now it gets back to brown. At the same time, you do not have shoe polish, the black one, which you could polish to maintain the color. And then thirdly, there used to be a wood in the sole. So it also gets out. And I don't know how I can explain, but it all busts out and then the foot gets direct to the ground, but the shoe is looking nice up here, although with its albino like color. And when my mother met me, she cried. And one of the other scenarios, that shoe could smell. And whenever a person enters a dormitory and they smell something bad, a shoe smelling, they'll be like, "Asemudu, ingato semudu ediwa, amana semudu waingiza wane, please put it out." And I could go through school, my shoe was the smelly one, above what other people, the names. Yeah, but also God used some people therein. I remember one of the big guys used to be Jack. Jack was was the strongest guy. Whenever we could not have water at school, we could go down the wells and he could carry those 40 liters from about 2 kilometers down the well up the school without putting them down. And somehow every time that someone could, in his presence, someone could come against me, maybe try to bully me, he could come around and try to
fight for you.
To fight for me and help me out. And then the other friend of mine was, actually he's the son of one of the former MPs called Collins. Collins was a good friend. And then another one whom we used also to keep things with, God put about 3 people who could fight for me whenever some people could come through to bully me and tease me around. Yeah, but the story wasn't good. Yeah.
But I want to know when it comes to, because there are so many, I would say, school-going kids that are facing the same things, just that hollow feeling of feeling like you don't belong, or feeling like you are different, others have it better than you. How did that internally affect you, apart from the things that were happening outward? Internally, like, what were the conversations that were having in your mind?
I can better explain it this way. I'm a politician naturally, and I got an opportunity actually to be into politics when I changed schools. I used to ask myself, can I be on TV with this height of mine? Can I stand and people believe me when I say I'm going to stand up, for MPship? It usually beats people down. It beats people's abilities down. I used to be eloquent. Whenever I could stand out to speak, I could be very fluent, very eloquent, very courageous. But every time I think about, people can't believe
Size.
me. People can't believe me with this size of
For
mine.
you, it was mostly about the size.
Yes, it was mostly about the size. If people cannot allow me to speak to them, to give them my ideas because of the size. I remember while I was still at St. Augustine, now the secondary, I decided to contest for one of the smallest, and that was timekeeper. And now we're going for the interviews. And the teacher tells me, now order that guy now, you're the prefect now, we've given you the authority, tell him to pick rubbish. And I tell him, so he doesn't do anything. So he asks me, so if he refuses, what do you do? I say, I report to the teacher. I say, no, you cannot, you're the prefect. People cannot believe you. You see, if you cannot do it right now, you cannot do it when you're prefect. Because of the size. So it beats someone.
That's what you read from the teacher's words.
Of course they could speak it. You cannot. It needs someone who is a little bit bigger than you.
And how did that, because secondary, that is where you're with girls, that is where you start understanding about a bit of relationships and stuff like that.
Of course, definitely with my height, no one. I remember my friends could push me some of the time, so I tried one time to have a girl to vibe. And but Sam,
the girl is the girl is the one telling you.
Yeah,
that what?
You're short. Just look at yourself. Now he compares me with one of the friends who was Juma. I was a bit fleshy and a bit taller. Not so much, but a bit taller. So now my boyfriend is Juma, and you can see him. He's bigger than you. So can you give me money? No. Can you protect me when those big guys come around? Not really. So I have nothing I need from you.
And so how do you go back? How do you?
I pick my strength back because I have to. When I go back home, always our mother used to encourage us through the word, but also to tell us who we are in God, about our abilities. When I go back to our family, our mother used to train us. We were a choir of 3 small children, and we used to go around churches. So going to school was sort of go, do whatever you want to do. Actually,
then come back home.
Many old students, when they find me, when they watch me on YouTube, they're like, when did you start singing? We've never seen you sing. We've never heard you sing. They don't know anything.
So at school, you were a different person.
I was totally different person, withheld. No one knew who I was. No one knew what I can do. Because every time I could even try to come through. For example, there's a time I tried to go into football play. I was strong. And one of the boys used to like me because whenever I could be in the defense, I was that strong, small guy there. And he used to identify my talent. But everyone would be like, what is he going to do? We need someone who is really strong, even if they didn't do as much as they could. But they needed someone there.
That was tall. Yeah, it was about stature.
Exactly. It was about, being fleshy, being, having a bit better stature. Yeah.
Okay. And did you have any complaints whenever you went back home? Because at home, at school, you were living a different life, totally different.
At home, no, okay, maybe some.
At home, you felt like accepted, everything is okay.
Exactly. Our mother, I thank our parents, they are really caring people. And our mother used to listen every time we could go into prayer. I cannot forget those days when we could set apart, time to pray and fast, close ourselves in the house. And that was her. Listen to us, talk about it whenever you could find something. Even if we could have issues with our father, you'd be like, no, he's your father. And these things happen. You can just accept him and love him the way he is. He has done his best. And whenever or wherever you think he's not good, he's just a person. Yeah, just don't grow and be the same bad thing that he has done to you. So you have a lesson. He has helped you good. And really,
so she used to just nurture you and bring you back and accept you.
Exactly.
And follow you. Okay. And so you go from secondary, because as you grow older, your fears become actually louder.
I actually drop out in S3 because of money, and I go back home now. I think now if I cannot stay in school, I don't think I can do anything else, because one of my biggest prayers was like, I want to finish up with education really early. Now, if I have a degree, I have something to hold on. I can go ask for a job and have a family. Yeah, life is good.
That will be good. And now you've dropped off.
Now I've dropped out of school. I thank God. I stayed at home for a year, and one of our family friends finds an opportunity. So I go for vocational training for 2 years. Now I'm thinking, now you've dropped out. Is this vocational thing really working out? But my biggest prayer was, if I can get an opportunity, go back
to school.
At least get a better degree, say a lawyer. I was like, I can speak well. I can become a lawyer. I can really make, things happen. So God helped me go through the vocational school. It wasn't
What were you doing in vocation?
I started building and construction.
Okay.
Really off what I had ever figured out. But they had only 3 courses. They had building, they had carpentry, and they had metalworks. Fabrics and welding. So I'd be like, I have nothing to do with welding. I have nothing to do with carpentry. I've never had an experience. But one of my paternal uncles does construction. So I say, I think it's better if I joined construction. So I went, finished up, completed the course. I thank God, actually, because of the bullying, because of the looked downs, I used to perform much better, actually through nursery to about P5. I used to be either the first, second, or the third, all through.
You wanted to prove them wrong?
No.
Or you wanted to?
I was that bright.
Okay.
But because of the bullying, when I grew up through P5, P6, P7, because now that is more intense. You have more expectations.
Yes.
You have girls' expectations. You have expectations from your colleagues. I actually got disoriented and started performing really bad. I remember my head teacher used to even comment, you used to write so well. She even threatened to demote me. Anyway, I now started picking my courage through vocational. I was the second best performer, and the opportunity came back. I joined back secondary. Okay. And that's when now I joined back because I dropped
Senior
out.
5.
No. I dropped out in joining Senior 3, second term of Senior 2. So I joined now into S3. And that's when, now I've joined the courage. That's when I got an opportunity to stand in for school politics, became the language prefect. I made sure I make people speak English. And I remember the director said, I tried to make people speak English here until I gave up. Because every time I could enter the school, everyone could go mute.
Until some came.
Until this prefecture came through. So I said, I thank God. So when I went into secondary, things got better. I became the head prefect of the school. Actually, to show you how
That's
it had...
HSC?
Yeah. To show you how it had affected me when I was structuring my speech, I said, now, because my biggest setback is height, I need to make sure I put something in my speech that is going to nullify that. So I'd be like, you know, people, some of you want to vote for tall guys. But if the elephant is not the king of the jungle and the lion, which is quite short, then here I am. I'm your lion, and I'm going to be your Napoleon. I used to be good in history, so everyone, yeah, that is our guy. And thank God I went through.
You use the same issue that people used to beat you about to actually buy into their hearts.
Exactly. I've actually purposed in my life everything that puts me down. I don't just sit back and cry on it and think about how bad that is. I always think, oh, how can I use this to make sure I make it a stepping
have a comeback.
Exactly. I turn it around. So if, for example, you give me a nickname, some trashy name, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I can be that. Yeah. Good. So I start also calling myself that and be like...
Because then you're disarming them.
Exactly.
If you feel bad about it, the more they call you that. If you start calling yourself, then they stop calling you that.
Actually,
because
that
you've
is the
accepted
trick.
it.
That's the trick.
And it sounds so simple, but I think there are so many people that have lost themselves with body shaming.
Yeah.
And when it comes to girls, you know, if you have pimples, you think different. Others, it's about color complexion. Others, it's about height. Others, it's about, there are those that are too small, and they're praying to God that they even get a bit
Actually,
of
there's someone
them.
who has just something small. For example, he has small, I don't know what they call them, something that
like a protrusion. Yes.
But they beat themselves down.
And sometimes they will try to hide as much as possible. They will not walk around class or school. And I think parents, for me, this is more important even to parents to be able to build. You see how your mother would build your self-esteem, show you who you are in God, and show you how she fully accepts you. But just imagine if it's happening at home, because I know of a girl who says that at home she was being called too fat, at home she was being called ugly by the mother, and now at school she's being called the same thing. And so she felt like she had nowhere to belong for the longest time. She hated her body. She couldn't do anything about it. Just imagine, you can't change your height. But because at school, the kids make fun of it, when you come home and maybe there are people also making fun of it, then you feel like, okay, so where should I go? I feel it's really, really important. People lose self-esteem, and people that would have been very good people in the world, they end up losing it in the lower classes or even in secondary.
And I could actually, can you imagine, I couldn't even show my talent. And there were many opportunities because our school was a Catholic school. So there used to be a lot of performances. We used to go to the diocese and perform. Sometimes they could look for people to pick out to lead the songs. But even in the choir, I remember I had just joined secondary, and this gentleman was a teacher. So he finds everyone is, into their conversations. He had put songs up on the billboard, on the blackboard to copy, and students could just go off and start conversing. So he came in once, twice. He says, "Why are you shouting? I've told you to write. So I'm going to beat you." Instead of picking on people who were even just shouting near him, he picks me from the back.
He can manage you.
Because he can manage me.
You are manageable.
I just thank God that day I had the strength. So I told him, because I knew, he just picked me because I was the person who could manage. So I told him, please, you found me writing. You're not going to beat me. So he threatens me. I say, no way. You're not going to go down on me. You're not going to beat me this. No, I'm going to call you now on Monday. I was so timid inside, but strong enough to be like,
to stand for yourself.
To stand for myself. And I think someone just needs to realize who they are and stand out for themselves. Because bullying and mistreatment, actually that's one of the reasons, among others, that encouraged me to become an activist.
Okay.
Because I realized if there must be someone who is looked down
Going
who's,
through the same
yes,
thing.
exactly. I should stand up for some people. And thank God when I reached university, I had that opportunity. Some campaign opened up my eyes to realize, oh, this is something I can engage myself in, to fight for someone.
What was the campaign about?
It was about sexual harassment. We had, there was this campaign by the Makerere Gender Mainstreaming Directorate. And I was at Makerere doing my bachelor's degree in music. So they put up a campaign to for anyone who can come up with arts, any kind of art, to convey a message for fighting against sexual harassment, particularly for that campaign. So I said, oh, it's something that I can engage in.
But were you any smaller then? Because you don't look so small right now. Were you too small then?
I was too small through primary, secondary.
Okay, but at campus you at least
At
you're
campus,
sizable.
of course, now I'm sizable, and of course I'm strong enough. I'm eloquent. I can speak. So of course no one can anymore look down on me. When you look down on me, I just call you into my my room. Just be like, oh, come on, I'm not that. Here I am.
Okay, so you come up with something for.
So I come up with an art. So, but of course, looking at others, to fight for others, because I have a background of being looked down at, and now I have a voice, I have art, I can sing, I can compose, so I can put up something to fight for others who are sexually, particularly for that matter, who are sexually abused. Yeah.
So you came up with a song.
I came up with a song.
And you sang it.
I sang
at
it.
Campus.
Yeah. At campus.
And what happened?
Of course, now I became one of the ambassadors for the fight against sexual harassment.
So they accepted the song, like the song was good?
Yeah, it was.
That was your first ever, that was the first song you ever wrote?
No. I grew up, our mother used to write songs. She used to call us into helping her into composition. And yeah, I've been writing all my life.
Okay.
But that is, I think, that is the piece that I wrote myself and got recorded. Actually, it was my first video shoot. Okay. Yeah. Thanks to GMD and the UN women. Yeah.
Okay. And so what is the journey after that? How do you go into working with the children? How do you, what unveils after that?
From secondary, after I did secondary, and thank God, I got some little sponsorship through high school and finished up at 6. And my father tells me, you know what, Sami? Honestly speaking, you can see the situation. You can go no longer. By the grace of God, we can just give it a year in hope and see what God does. So I'm seated at home, I'll be like, this is not what I prayed for. So I go before the Lord, I tell him, I said, when you bring me back to secondary, I have to go to university. This is not where it has to stop. So we keep in prayer. So one day, we had a colleague that we used to pray with, and he's a lecturer at Makerere University. So I was like, I have to join Dr. Steve at university. He's my friend. He can help me out. So I call him, ask him how I can join university. He tells me all through
the procedure.
Yeah, the procedures. So I'd be like, but I need money. He couldn't, of course, help me. So I'd be like, I go to my mother, tell him, usually keep some money around, maybe for other things, other people, circles and all that. So I tell her, can you just lend me 50,000, I'll pay it back. I don't know from where. Because actually, I used to go do some little things through holidays, but through my vacation, nothing. I had nothing. So I tell him, can you just borrow me 50,000 for application? So he said, but Sam, where are you going? Where shall we get the money? So I pick on the money, go to a cafe, apply. And I had my 50,000. I didn't have it in mind that they pay bank charge. So I go to the bank, having applied online. On the last day, she gives me that money. I go to the bank. They told me, you're missing 500,000 for the bank charge. But like now, where I moved the whole village, I tell you, no one could give me that 2,500. I went to the cafe attendant who was my friend. She couldn't have it. I went to some family friend of ours, because my father used to go there, even borrow some stuff from the shop for a lifetime. So I knew that guy for a lifetime. He couldn't give me the 2,500. I moved the whole village. Thank God, finally, I find some friend of mine who gave me the 2,500. I ran to the bank. It was almost closing. I think I had about 15 minutes to closure. So I ran into the bank, pay up. Thank God. So I've paid the application fee. Later on, Dr. Steve calls me, yeah, they have given you place and they have given you what you liked. Actually, through application, I wanted to become a teacher. They're like, teachers are paid 700,000.
That's good money.
That's good money. 700. I've never, my dad, by the time he resigned, I think his salary, his best was 500 from Uganda Telecom. So that is the best I had ever heard. But I had my teachers through high school.
They were being paid
700. But like, oh my God, that's good money. I can make a living. So Dr. Steve tells me, if you're going to build a house of 200 million, how many years do you have to work to build such a house? So he opens up my eyes. He's like, you're good in music. You've been playing the keyboard in church for quite a good time. And I believe you've been training some other people, and they've been giving you some money before you even started. So I'd be like, oh. So he says, you see those musicians outside there? They make good money. But it's not because it's of music, but because that is who they are. If you picked on that, studied, reinforced it, you have a talent. If you went to university, got the knowledge, then you have reinforced it real good, and you can make a living. And I thought about it. Like, yeah, some people have been calling me, paying me some little money to play just a keyboard once in a while. If I've been making some little money outside there without a degree, so I think when I get a degree, I can make better. So I thank God, go to the university like that.
So who pays?
God pays somehow, because I just went to the university. I told God. I remember there's some friend of mine, he's actually my pastor right now. He calls me to train his choir. So one time when I was coming from the choir rehearsal, I tell God, but I think I've lifted this burden a lot myself. I want to just hand it over to you. I cannot lift it anymore. I know I do not have the money. Even if my dad works day and night, he cannot raise the money. If my mother no longer works, so no money. So I give it up to God. So I say, I've done my effort, I'm at university. So I go to the university.
You start going to class?
I start going to the university.
Without any payment?
Without any payment. So through the first month, I'll be like, now. Things start biting now, exams are coming. But God, where am I getting the money?
But at least you can go to class?
Yeah. Actually, at home, we used to have there's a friend of mine I called her Mami Julie. She used to work at ERA, Electricity Regulatory Authority. So he could work in Nakasero. So I go to her, tell her, you work in town. I'm starting university. So can I just go with you as you drive to work? So she drops me at Nakasero, so I walk through from Nakasero to Macquarie University back. And there are some days, because she has work, there are some days she could maybe have a trip with her boss to the dams. When I have the money, yeah, thank God. When I don't have the money, I have to walk from Macquarie to Chireka. The first time I was like, this is a joke. Am I really going to walk? Because I think we used to walk through Mutungo, Chinawataka. My father's side job was doing metal
fabrication.
Metal fabrication. So he used to work to make sigiri, those metallic sigiri. So we could carry them walk around chirika chinawataka nakawa
Selling them.
selling them. Remember, I told some person, this is 8,000. Am I buying life? I'm like,
8,000.
8,000. You're buying a sigiri, sir. Not life. Life is not 8,000. So we used to walk all through that. But I think because we were children,
You would not feel it.
we would not feel it. But because also it had money attachment, somehow would not feel how hard it was. But now I had to face a journey, going to do nothing, but just going back home. So the first day I was like, okay, I should just accept it. So I walk slowly, pace up, go singing, because that is what I could do best. Singing until I reached home. When I reached home, thank God. So the second day, Mami Julie told me, my car is like a train. So you catch it. I set off at 6 or at 7, between there. So you must catch me. But it helped me, one, on time management, because I had to wake up at 5, whether I had a lecture in the morning or it was at 3, or I had just some little practice at the campus. I had to catch it at 6. Sometimes she could maybe get lazy, be like, today maybe I will go at about 8. I was at 5 waiting. So I'd be like,
For the train.
for the train, not to,
To leave you.
to leave me. So sometimes I could get to the gate, like, hey, mommy, man, so I'm here today, I'm not going. I'd be like, I'm dead, I had a lecture at 8. And I'm just realizing it at 7 that she's not going. Oh, I think she's there. Kumbe, actually,
She already.
she went for the trip someday. Maybe it was through a weekend and it is a Monday, so I didn't know anything was had happened, that she's not around. So on a Monday, I'm busy waiting for the train to come. So only, hey, Itan, is mommy there? Mommy tali yo, mommy agenda, say where some of the dams, is Simba some dam. I had a lecture at 8, so I start figuring out, maybe I borrow some money somewhere, or I have now to look it.
But you're borrowing money and you have no tuition.
You know, when you're drowning, you have to hold on to anything. You can't even hold on the water that is killing you. When you're drowning, anything that comes, you start holding on to water that is really killing you.
No, I want to see how you figured it out, because I know for one, I pushed until I couldn't push anymore, until I did the tests, until now exams came and I couldn't sit exams. Yeah,
for my very first payment, I talked to my father, and because for that one, it was taking me. So I talked to him. He says, okay, maybe we can figure out something. So we go for a loan. Remember, it was 1 million shillings. And I had to pay 1.3 initially. So he said he could only secure a loan of 1 million shillings from a friend. So we say, let's go for that loan. So he gets that loan, pays up for me. So I even missed my very first exam. But I paid up. On the second day, I started doing exams. So I learned that actually you can do exams before you even pay up. Yes, then. They have just tightened up recently. So I learned, because the professor told me, why did you miss my exam? I had not, you would have come. At least you would do the first one and second one as you figure out payment. So I said, I could even do that. So good enough, I had paid 1 million through the tuition. So I go into the second semester having a debt of about 300,000 plus. But now I have another 700 accumulating on top of it. So I'm just praying, because what took me to university is not belief that someone is going to pay for me. All my life, our parents taught us not to look at anyone. I can actually be hungry and people are eating. And I'm happy. Not that I have any grudge or anything inside me, but that is what they taught us.
Contentment.
I remember someday we had family. There is some family which was good at us. when we were in Kasokoso. Now we shifted from Chireka when I was in P4 to Kasokoso. So they came, they had some money. So my young brother, the last born, was playing with the children of that home. And then they start serving. She runs back home and she knows for real there is nothing. So that lady, I don't know whether she just understood that maybe sometimes we don't have something to eat. She came so angry. God was a you will eat it. My food is yours. So when I serve food with my children, you always come and play with them. You must eat and you must sit and eat. So that is us. That's how our parents groomed us.
And that was really good.
Yes. And for me, being at university, I cannot say I had my eyes onto anyone. I had that friend of mine who was a lecturer. I don't think I have ever called him to say, doctor, things are tight here. Do you have someone, maybe 100? Not for tuition. My pastor right now, I actually had a dead year when I joined my second year at campus. The course is 3 years. I had to take 5 years studying the same course.
Wow.
So I looked at God into my second year. So I tell God now, I've fought enough. Of course, I had debts. In that first semester of second year, I had paid up, I think, to about 600,000. And I had in debt about 1 million or so. So they sent me out of the examination room. It was my very first examination to miss, especially being sent out. And actually, all through my school, I don't know why, but students and other people used to think that maybe at our home we are wealthy. Because maybe I used not to beg around, even if I had nothing to eat. Actually, sometimes I could maybe have something small and give it to someone who needed it more. And people thought that
you're okay.
We are okay. I remember one of my OGs was in the United Arab Emirates, I think about 2 years back. She called me, hey, they called me HP, head prefect. Hey, HP, how are you? We're like, I'm going through hard situations. I said, like, Nangi, that's the life. You should hold on. You should have hope in God. Just keep praying. We shall keep praying. But now, for you don't understand these things. For you don't know hard life. I'll be like,
because I don't show it. So
because I don't show it, so you think I have not gone through hard stuff. And they actually used, the HM could do it better sending me home. He could call me into office, Sam. I know the HM, I don't want the teacher to come, into the classroom.
And call your name out.
And call your name out. But please, mwana, kubanja, sente nyinji. Please go. Because actually, it was 150,000 as school fees. And actually, the organization that I work for right now used to pay, I think, 60,000. And I had to pay about 80 something. But it was a struggle.
Getting that money. So you could call me to your office, Sam, gende waka. And tell the parents I need the money. It is only 150,000 and the organization pays for you the 60,000. So please. So people usually didn't see me. And of course, because you didn't display that.
I didn't display. And I was that HP. Whenever I could enter the school, I was the one-man army. Actually, my prefecture had only about 4 people who were serious. Whenever I could enter school, everything could go calm. Not because I used to beat around people, but I used to make a relationship with people. I used to say, I am short, but I want to find out mechanisms of making things happen with even those things that other people could not do, even the tall people can't do. So I realize, especially S6 people, don't want to pick around the rubbish. So I said that is what my number one ambition, to make them pick.
So how did you make them pick?
I have a relationship with them, talk to them well. I'll be like, this is just easy. Just pick, I don't want people to see you. So just pick as you go. You see through the walkway to your classroom. Just go picking a little bit.
And then they felt like...
And they felt like, this guy respects us. And it's not that much. So they pick and they go. So that's how we have the relationship. But people use known to know that behind that strong character, behind that person who could stand at the beginning of the line and it's all queued up, straight, was a very
timid young boy.
timid, but also very poor. I could target that when students are few at the canteen, and because I was the prefect, I could go into the back door, tell the matron, and then put it in the bag, go back to the classroom. And I also had friends who could sometimes buy and share with you. So that's how I used to navigate.
To just survive through life.
At campus, sometimes you could walk from home to campus, but you didn't come with anything to eat. You don't have the money. Even the transport you didn't have. Or sometimes Mosaic could have something. I have some tuke here, maybe it can help you. So you'll be like, should I eat? Should I transport myself? Be like, after all, I've come from home having eaten a golu. So let me pay the taxi to campus, then I'll figure out how
to come
back home. So now, through the lectures, this Dr. Sempi Jabi is like, you know, you people at campus here, you think you're proud enough to pack food. I'll be like, kumbe there is also packing food. Like, let me put this shame aside and save my stomach. So I bought a tiffin, a dish. So every time we could have some left over at home, I could be like, Mommy, save that for me. So especially things like sweet potato, cassava, you know, those are easy things. Yams, So she could sometimes even intentionally put something on for me. So I pack it. Now, I had also a family friend of ours who used to send me to her home because she was busy and all her children had gone to school. So she could, Sam, if you can just keep for me, Josh, you stay at home, you can cook. So, you know, you cook for yourself in mind, knowing that tomorrow is also
I'll
day.
need it.
So you pack some food.
You put it in your bag?
Put it in my bag. My bag could be like a whole storage backpack. It could be heavy with books, with a big bottle of water, a tiffin. And Dr. Steve had donated to me a very big computer, Inspiron. So I had books, an Inspiron computer, laptop. I had a bottle of water therein and a dish of food.
So where would you eat this food?
At campus, I could maybe...
You find somewhere?
I find somewhere, sit.
Quiet.
But now after some time...
It's normal?
It's normal. Now, I'm either hungry and ashamed, or I eat my food and I'm full.
And I'm okay,
And you care about yourself.
Yeah.
I actually started telling people, some new students, pack your food. Instead of being here hungry.
You started a campaign.
I started a campaign.
Activist.
My young brother doesn't like it, but I always told him, he's now schooling at AIM, also doing music. He used to tell me, Sam, your things. I tell him, I pack my food.
So I take care of myself.
I take care of myself, and I don't have ulcers. He's fighting with ulcers.
Because he's keeping himself.
Because he doesn't want to carry
impress.
Food, to impress others. I told him, no way. You pack your food. Let them laugh as you're living healthy. As you're eating. As you're taking care of yourself. You cannot even, grasp what they're teaching if you're hungry.
That's true.
I used to doze in class. My professor had started even hating me. You're hungry and the lecture goes into 30 minutes. You're already exhausted.
Yeah.
I actually used to ask
Your mind is shutting down.
Your mind is totally shutting down. You have a journey. Sometimes you walked in the morning and you're hungry.
And you have to walk back.
And you have to walk back. And you have to sit in lectures. Especially Monday was killer for me. Because it could start at 7 and end at 5 or 6. So all through you in lectures. And
yawning,
and campus is not like school where you have a break of 30 minutes or an hour. It is time after time. The lecture ends at 10 here, the other one starts at 10. So you have some lecturers leave about 10 minutes. So you have about 20 to figure out something to eat as you run into the next lecture.
And that was the life.
And that was the life.
Surviving.
So thank God, God brought me some people who used to pay up sometimes. I remember some friend of mine is called Mami Rose Okelo. A certain semester, she called people. Just somehow, God does these things. She called some people. Like, I believe some doesn't have tuition. Give me 200,000. Also, you, I know you have money. Give me 200,000. You, I know you have money. Give me 200,000.
Was she from church?
Yeah, she was part of the church.
And you were serving?
Yeah, actually where I was serving. So she collected, I think it was 800,000 from other 3 people and her. So it made up to 800,000, I guess. So that semester went through. So the other semesters, I remember the other semester, one lecture, I was being chased out. I had missed actually 3 papers. And this other one, she was a good lady. She's called Mrs. Pamela. And she looked at me. I told her, Madam, I have to do that paper. I cannot miss more because they will haunt me later. So she tells me, come, but I'm risking my job. I'm risking my job. So she allows me. And I sit for the exam. But as I was getting out, she gave me $100, go exchange and pay. And I think that is the same semester the other lady had paid for me some. So I pay up. And just miracles. You know, what they usually call a miracle life. Things happen. Above all things, I think, one, having hope in God and not having your eyes onto anyone else. Because human beings, I remember, I'll not say the person, but there's somewhere I was serving and, you know, I'm already struggling. So I tell the church, they had introduced, you remember, I think it was through lockdown when the P5, 77 days had come. So our church also comes on with these daily programs. They expect me to be playing keyboard and lead the worship all through the days. And I'm like, Pastor, I cannot manage. I hardly manage my affairs. I cannot manage.
The day.
Because sometimes I have to wait for Mommy Julie from office. Come back.
Your train sometimes doesn't show up.
I could actually go to her office, eat biscuits. I like them, but partly I was hungry. Eat biscuits and tea. So we sometimes come back late at 9 or 10. I can hardly catch up. So he tells me, you 3 guys in machines should work yourselves out. Maybe do some saving and hire someone because...
Okay, you can't manage your own things, but now you have to save some money.
Yeah, we have to save some money. Of course, one of them was working, but 2 of us weren't working with students, matter of fact. So I was just honest to him and said, I'm not going to save the money, and I'm not going to be around. But I can be around on Saturday when I'm available. So
speak your truth and go through life.
So I just looked at God and said, God, and like I told you previously, I told God, let me carry your burden. I'll be faithful to your ministry whenever I can. I'll serve, I'll play the keyboard, I'll sing whenever I can, I'll lead whatever thing I can.
Take care of my affairs.
But about my affairs, you know, I'm not going to even look there. Me, I'm going to make sure I appear at campus whenever I can. I'm going to make sure I do my obligations.
And you graduated.
And I graduated after all. And thank God, after the 5 years. And through campus, I realized God hears prayers.
And now you're working. You earn money.
Now working.
You can take care of yourself.
I had 2 major prayers, poor as I was. I said, God, I know I'm poor, but I have to drive before I leave campus.
Okay.
Number 2. With that, there's a lady called Mommy Patricia. We prayed together. I was applying for some job and said, my son, you've served me as a person and church. Let's make this prayer. You must work before leaving campus. And sometimes some things happen also to answer our prayers. Because I believe maybe I delayed at campus because of those 2 prayers. Because...
So you drove?
Yeah.
Where did you get the car from?
I'm coming.
we have to go.
So number 1, I God opens up a way. I joined the ministry where I am. But also number 2, during my internship, I get the job, which where I'm working at right now.
Okay.
And actually, that is where I get the cap from.
Okay.
And I get the job at the same place. And I believe if I had finished campus in the 3 years,
you'd have walked around.
Because that is out of the time. I started driving in the previous years before campus. I mean, before I finished campus. I started working actually beginning of last year.
And now you are no longer carrying your maulu.
No, no. Sometimes I make myself food. I have to cook. I bought a big cooker. So I sometimes prepare for myself.
Up to now, it became a habit.
It became a habit. So I actually even have an opportunity to do healthy.
Indeed, everything the enemy was using for evil, you tried to turn around for good. And that is Sam's story. My prayer is that actually more parents will be able to watch this, and then more children will be able to watch this. Because if it's not because of faith, it's very possible that you would have ended up either on a street somewhere, you'd have been frustrated. People have taken their own lives. When they see that I have hit a dead end and there's nothing more for me, then they're like, why should I live anyway? But the constant journey of hope, of thinking tomorrow can be better, even when there's no evidence that tomorrow can be better. I think for me, that stood out for me. The constant hoping in God, your mother showing you God, you praying through
actually training
it,
us into the talent.
And into the singing and all that. So parents, your children, you just don't have to give them money, prepare for them. Prepare the children, show them God, teach them the small. If you're a baker, show them how to bake. If whatever you do, show them how to do it. You can never know where the skill actually comes in and helps them. But most of all, them knowing that they belong to God and God accepts them because they find their self-esteem and their confidence in God and the hope to still believe that tomorrow can be better. We love you. We pray that with that you'll be able to check your own lives and be able to know what to give to your children, how to help another person if you see another person in need, and how to be able to also guard yourself, speak up for yourself, and build up your own self-confidence. Bless you, bless you.